Thanks everybody for coming to join us for this masterclass, which is all about being the writer in the room, which really is just a way of exploring collaborative approaches that you can take as a playwright. I think we can all agree that if you've chosen to create a piece of theatre, then you are excited by collaboration and you kind of understand that you can't do it on your own. You know, theatre is inherently collaborative, and I think one of the things that I feel really strongly about, and one of the conversations that I have a lot with playwrights, is to try and help you dispel that pressure that you feel to get it all right on your own. Because obviously, if you're writing a play, unless you're going to perform it yourself and direct it yourself, then you need other people. So it's never going to fully exist until you welcome other people into the process. So that's kind of pressure off you, because there comes a point where it is off your shoulders. You've got to let other people in. And also, I hope that it's really empowering because you bring the solution. Like, you give everybody the gift of creativity. You keep me in employment because I can't direct plays if people don't write plays. Actors can't perform in plays if people don't write plays. You are the solution to every single programming problem in every single theatre in the country. Something that theatres sometimes forget. But that's such an important thing to remember as playwrights. So that is essentially the vibe of the session today. And what I want to talk about and explore, I'm just going to keep half an eye on other people coming into the room and let them in when they're ready. So it would be really lovely if we can really quickly go round the room and just say who we are and where we've come from today, and what's brought you here, and anything else you'd like to share about anything that you're working on, or anything particularly positive or challenging or exciting that's happened to you this week. This is a room for celebration and commiseration, depending on how your week in February is panning out. And any questions that you might like, that you kind of come in with. I'm happy to start. So my name is Hannah, and I'm really excited to meet some people in person who I've only ever met through online groups that we've run. It's lovely to have Barbara here, who was one of our pen pals during COVID. So that's really exciting to see that she has got feet. That's really exciting. And also to meet some new playwrights and hear ideas. I'm also particularly excited to witness live writes and some really exciting new writing in the North East. So all full of positives today for me. Yeah. Hello.
Hi. I've just finished my MA in creative writing, and I hope that this is the year that actually gets me on stage.
Well, it is the year of the fire horse starting today, so let's hope that horse charges through creativity for you. Lovely. Hi, Moira. As you're on screen, should we welcome you?
Okay. Hi. I'm Moira. I've got sciatica at the moment, which is why I'm at home and not traveling very far if I can possibly help it. I just love writing, and I keep trying to write plays and very occasionally get something, performed. That's it, really.
Fab, thank you. Let's keep going on the table.
I'm Barbara. I have just finished a full-length script, and I've previously only written for quite small casts and kind of community venues with very limited set, and so wanted to create something that was more theatrical than that. And I feel like I've kind of got to the point that like my limits, I guess, as an individual in a silent room, and I am kind of at the point you were describing where you need kind of people to play with it, I guess, and kind of elevate it in that way. Randomly stuck with like a kind of Greek chorus in it. So yeah, I'm interested in like what that kind of R&D process might look like when I'm looking into kind of Arts Council funding for the next stage.
Exciting.
Hello, I'm Natalie, and I'm predominantly an actor, but I'm working on a show at the minute, Sugar Boats here, as an actor. But yeah, I'm really interested in writing, and I think what's been kind of a thing for me over the last few years is going between like television scripts and theatre scripts and stuff like that, and different writers that I've worked with and stuff like that. It's kind of, for me, I want to kind of step into it a bit to learn just on the writing side of things, how to collaborate and get the best out of these things, because sometimes everybody's not singing from the same hymn sheet.
Many times. Lovely, they're really clear questions to bring in. Thank you.
I'm Anna. I'm actually not a writer. I'm a head of drama at a local secondary school, and I'm with Natalie. So I'm feeling like a bit of a fraud, but anything creative, anything like this is helpful. Devising is one of the hardest skills that the students, it's just so hard that even the best performers and the best students struggle with it. And so I think this would be helpful for me.
Oh yeah, and well it's collaboration, and I see that when I go in and work with secondary school kids, that you'll have like one or two who are like, I shall be the leader, and then others who are like waste 20 minutes talking about what they're going to do before they do it. So we can have some tips for you, definitely.
I'm Jamie, I'm a writer. I'm working on my first full-length play at the minute called The Sniff of Sisyphus. Well, I've done like 12 drafts or something of it now.
Wow.
No, I meant to say it was like 2 or 3 drafts. Which is hopefully being read this month.
Oh, brilliant.
By the decision makers here. So fingers crossed, and then just a few other things.
Nice.
Did yes, the last one.
Oh, fab.
Hello, I'm Mary. I've done a couple of box of tricks things. I was pen pal, but also in the Accelerate group, which is for female writers. No, it wasn't just female, it was for writers under the age of 35. And from that, I'm trying to finish up. So I came up through this sort of scratch night, small play night system where it was like, I just fell into the trap of writing the cast of 2 to 4 for like 10 minutes. And it's really taken me some time to kind of expand onto that bigger play. But I think for me, in terms of being in the room, like I also did a creative writing MA, and I thought I wanted to be a novelist, but then realised it's really lonely to write a book, whereas with theatre you have to see people eventually, which is really cool. But I think for me, in terms of the room, anytime I've kind of done it, I've been like, so I'm so grateful to be here, I'm so grateful, don't mind me. Whereas like I kind of forgot I have a voice, and it's how to get that voice and how to use it.
I'm Carmen. I've done a live rights as well. I'm not really a playwright, I'm a singer and songwriter, and I wrote some songs for an album that I did last year called Fault, and the script I've written is based on the songs, and it's basically sort of autobiographical about being an adopted mixed race person from the 1960s, and it's a really weird thought that I'm going to have to give my baby over to other people.
Yes.
That's how I feel about it. But I really want that help as well to let it flourish.
Yeah, it's exciting, terrifying, but exciting. And you are not the only playwright who I know who's like a child. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, another Ben, and I have absolutely no training or grounding in any of this MAs or anything that you guys have talked about, which is cool and exciting. I'm largely self-taught and from a place of working in venues like this, around kind of like admin kind of side, and kind of just soaking in the environment. I started writing my own stuff a few years ago, chipping away, and it's just sat in drawers right now. Don't know what to do with it. I'm kind of here kind of building a bit of confidence and courage and meet people and seeing what people do with their material. So
that is very exciting, a good place to be. Fab. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it's always horrible going around the table. It's like, just at least I didn't ask you what the skill you might be. But anyone wants to share that at any point, you might be. So what I wanted to have a little bit of a chat first of all about collaboration and kind of what we think that means, and then I've got bit of some text that I want to show you that went through what I would consider to be a really great, really kind of optimal development process. So it kind of demonstrates how that collaboration worked really well for us. So you can kind of see how that changes. Obviously, as we're going through stuff, please ask questions, express opinions, stop, interrupt. This is a conversation between us all. with some practical elements, but it's not, I will just fill silence with words. So please stop me if there's something you want to know. So what, first of all, I guess my question would be, what does collaboration mean to you as playwrights? When someone says, I embrace a collaborative process, is that terrifying, or do you have a real sense of what that means for you? Does it feel like it means I've got to hand my baby over to other people and I feel terrified about that, or is it just one of those words that we put on funding bids and applications to theatres and we don't really have a sense of what it means to us other than getting a foot in the door?
I would say for me, the collaboration part of it is the bit that I always get most excited about. And it just depends on what project you're working on, how much of it you actually genuinely get.
Yeah.
I love working on new writing because you tend to get a lot more collaboration. So I think especially if you're writing, if it's like a theatre project and you've got, and well, do people get R&D anymore? I tend to get R&D. That's like my favourite bit of it, the R&D bit, like working it through. Sometimes you don't get that anymore, and you're just kind of collaborating in a 2.5 week like rehearsal slot.
Yeah,
chucking it on.
Yeah. Absolutely, it really is my favourite aspect of the process. But does anyone feel scared, terrified, nervous, intimidated of the word collaboration?
Does it depend who it was with?
Yeah.
Like I overall, yes, I also get excited. But if you said to me, actually, you're in there, as much as I want to be in the rehearsal room of the National Theatre, if they said you're going to be in that room and Milda Stunt's going to be there and he's going to pop his head in, I'd be like, oh my God, kind of thing. I don't know, it's the thing I always think about is because I work a full-time non-arts corporate job and there's HR to protect us, right? And I know there's things like unions and actors and writers guilds and stuff like that, but sometimes there's not those same things to protect you. And I've been very lucky and had really good times in rehearsal rooms and collaborative, and it does excite me, but I've also heard bad stories where those things haven't been in place, so it's hard to bring the tone down, but just like that's maybe
yes. And I think for me, that collaboration should be about total equality. We're getting rid of the hierarchies. We're all there in pursuit of a common goal. There's a necessary hierarchy within various stages of the process, because otherwise stuff's not going to happen. If we have to make all the decisions by committee and vote everything, nothing's ever going to happen. And obviously for me, the initial hierarchy, like the initial seed of anything, is the playwright. It's your idea, it's your thing, it's your story that you want to tell. It's your voice that you're putting out into the world. That's the very first thing that happens, and then you will invite either a dramaturg or a director or both in one person or in two people. And I feel like dramaturgs are still a new thing for us in UK theatre, and not everyone would feel comfortable using that term, talking about a dramaturg. Does anyone feel like they don't know what a dramaturg is, or that feels like a really intimidating term, or one they just wouldn't use at all? Again, is it one of those funding terms you use? Is that something that you would talk to your kids about?
Yeah, so I do know it, but we used to do more stuff about like roles in theatre.
Yeah.
But we don't do so much anymore. But I wouldn't be using that language with the students, but it is on specifications sometimes.
Yeah.
But definitely not a GCSE. We wouldn't really talk like with that language.
And I think it's really interesting because it's something, when I started out in theatre, we didn't really talk about dramaturgs. It felt like a really European thing. And now the amount of funding bids that people ask for my advice on, where they've got like a dramaturg as part of it, because it's like we must have all the people and all the steps to do the process properly. And actually, I probably had worked for nearly 10 years before someone wanted to get this in there, before I welcomed dramaturg into the process. And actually, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it from a directorial point of view. It was really brilliant. I now work as a dramaturg and as a director and as a director dramaturg in rooms, and actually it's really nice just being the dramaturg, because essentially your job there is to serve and support the playwright. That's absolutely your job. You're there to advocate for a playwright, so that's something to remember going into rooms, that if there's a dramaturg there, they are your advocate. They are the bridge between you and the rest of the room, because their only job is to help create the very best play. The director's job should be to help to create the very best play, to create the most positive room, to help everyone realise their potential. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's about massaging their ego and, you know, having a vision, naming no names in particular. But, you know, there are certain directors who are quite famous at the moment, Jamie Lloyd, who do a lot of stuff, I would say, that is very much about
Nakedness.
Nakedness, about metal, about blood, but actually about a kind of auteur vision of being a director, which in itself is totally valid as an artistic pursuit, and not something that I'm interested in, but clearly works really well to create a very successful career. But I would be very surprised if Jamie Lloyd has dramaturgs working on shows, because actually he's got such a strong vision and often not a playwright in the room. And I think dramaturgy for me is about asking questions. And a very brilliant dramaturg I work with, who lives in this city, Lindsay Rodden, who's a fantastic playwright and dramaturg, she talks about it in terms of just provocations, that essentially she's just making provocations. And I think that's such an energised and exciting term to use, because it's a little bit spiky and it's a little bit difficult and it's a little bit challenging, but actually it has a sense to me of like making things more active and opening things up. So I think that's really useful. That was a very long way away from me talking about hierarchies.
Sorry, I've never been that convinced of the difference between a director and a dramaturg, but what I'm getting a little bit is that the dramaturg sort of manages things and circumstances and resources, and the director would manage people. Is that totally?
I'd say that the producer kind of manages things and circumstances and like literal material things. I think the dramaturg just helps open up the play for the sake of the play, I guess. So actually their job is about really exploring the world, the characters, and really understanding the playwright's voice and the ambitions behind that voice, and making sure that you as a playwright can advocate for yourself in the room. And if you can't, then the dramaturg can do it for you, because it's really hard being the writer in the room. Really hard. So actually that dramaturg is there to sort of be that, sometimes be that mouthpiece for you and talk about that. Whereas the director is, in the early stages, is also absolutely about unlocking the play and building the world of the play and advocating for you, but then later on becomes about the people and the design and the actors and all the other stuff, and bringing that to the world. They become more outward looking, whereas I think the dramaturg can always stay inward looking, but with an eye of like, let's just keep showing these pages to an audience. Let's keep remembering the audience, because it can be very hard for the playwright to hold on to a sense of your audience the whole time. But that is one of the things that I think is absolutely key to theatre, that you remember who your audience is, who you're writing it for, and why you're writing it for them. What do you, I mean, I've sort of answered this question. I was like, is there an order that creators need to be bringing? And then I've just sort of answered that for you. Do you think that collaboration has a set of rules that we need to follow? Do you feel as playwrights that there are rules that you've got to follow, and a particular game or a dance that's got to be done in order to help bring that play forward? And I guess I don't mean so much about like the game that we've got to play in terms of like getting the money and getting the meetings, but actually just that, does it feel like there's a roadmap to getting a play on that you have to do right?
I think you'd have to appreciate the sort of skills and the qualities that people have got in various areas that you don't have, and try and see how those skills and those attributes can help you play it, and accept that like they can, even if it doesn't look like it at first.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the most perfect definition of collaboration that I could have asked for. Do you know what I mean? It's actually understanding that other people have got skills they need to bring to it, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable. Acknowledging that. I think that's such a great way of thinking of it. And that's the point of theatre, isn't it? That we go, who are the most brilliant people that I can have in this room, in this conversation, in this story? Oh, brilliant. Welcome. There we go. Yeah, absolutely. It is. And do you think that there are rules attached to the various roles and what you're allowed to do? I feel very strongly that hi Emma. That this generation of playwrights, I mean, I guess when I say generation, because obviously we've got lots of ages around the room, but I guess, you know, everyone who is not yet like Simon Stevens or or Jack Thorne, or women, Lucy Kirkwood.
Churchill, would she have it? I'm trying to imagine a dramaturg with Carol Churchill.
I imagine that Carol Churchill probably does work with a dramaturg. I'd like to think she would.
Or is she just at the point? I don't know.
But then she might not have been, because actually
that wasn't her generation.
It wasn't her generation.
Yeah. Sheila Stevenson, whose plays on her big plays on here, like she lives in the south of France. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, was she of a generation to use a dramaturg? It'd be interesting. I'm going to go back and read some of her plays and see who's listed in the credits.
But maybe if in working in France, being open to that more European model of making theatre could have opened that up. But I feel I have a lot of conversations with playwrights where they talk about, am I allowed to do that? I need to understand form, I need to understand structure. I get a sense that people can feel really hidebound by rules. Does it feel like that for you? Yeah. What are the rules that you think you've got to follow? So we can debunk them.
In terms of collaboration or just broadly?
Well, I guess playwriting and therefore collaboration, and how that would, you know, maybe what do you need to have done before anyone else is allowed to see it? It's 12 drafts.
See, I'm going around in a bit of a circle at the minute because I have venues like this one. Is it? Comes like, invite us to your next reading, your next thing, and you've heard me say this before. I'm like, great, can you give me money to make the thing? And you're like, Christ, no, why would we do that? Like, but that's the circle. So I'm just in this internal loop of like, and it feels like I've done a lot of the scratch nights in the Northeast. Like I say, I've come up through the scratch night system. I've done one act rehearse readings. I've put in those I've done R&D weeks, and when they were funded, it feels even harder now. And I'm trying to get that play on the play that's going to run for like some nights or a 3-week run or so, even though it's just and it's just I just going around because, and when I approach people sometimes it's a bit like, who are you, how do you, not you, obviously I feel very safe and happy with Pots and Tricks, but like you're very rare, like it feels, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to allow that to segue into talking about what I think the good development process would be. And essentially, and I think that the majority of people in theatre would agree with this, and the majority of theatre would agree with this, and I think we can all agree that the funding landscape is such, and the total lack of belief and subsidy from government, which has created that funding landscape, is the reason that we are floundering where we are, and because we were committed so wholeheartedly to capitalism, which maybe wasn't the best system. But what I think is a really great way, a really great development pathway, is essentially we start with a conversation. So that, and I would say that for anything, any play, any idea that you've got, any story that you've got, have that initial conversation, whoever that's with. If you are fortunate enough to have a lovely creative family of other playwrights or actors, theatre makers, poets, journalists, artists, anyone else who loves stories and works with stories, they're a really great person to have that first conversation with. But I also think if you can find your friendly neighbourhood theatre making community or friendly neighbourhood theatre company that you can have that kind of conversation with, that's a really great place to start, where you're just going, I've got this idea, and I say this as someone who literally can't think through anything on my own. Like, I have to voice all my thoughts. which is why I put myself into theatre, and I just get to talk and bounce around people all the time. So for me, those conversations are so exciting, because that's the point when, like, very rarely you're going to have one of those conversations and have someone go, "Ooh, that sounds rubbish." Because, well, if they are, then maybe don't be friends with them anymore, so they're really rude. But actually, there's always going to be something in an idea. If it's been exciting enough for you to voice to somebody else, then someone is going to see something in that. And that is that initial spark of collaboration, because then suddenly your idea exists because you've spoken it out loud. And then we have that absolute rule of drama of the yes and. Because if you speak to the right people, then they'll go, "Oh yeah, and have you read this book?" Or, "Oh yes, and that reminds me of," or, "Oh, have you watched season 3 of whatever this series, because there's something in there." And then suddenly you feel a bit less alone. And so that for me is the start of it always. Now, when I then have conversations with people, I'll then go, "Well, why don't you write a treatment?" Now, I know that I am operating from a point of privilege in that I have never had to write a treatment for anybody, and that I sit in a position of power that when I have the money, I can say to someone, "Write me a play," and I can help make that play get on. So I understand it is a lot easier for me to say that. But I think a treatment is a really, really great place to start. And I know there are, in relation to different formats of writing, particularly for screen or radio. We've got someone else. Hi, Ginny. Let's let Ginny in. Thank you so much. I know that in other formats, there are an awful lot of rules about what those treatments need to look like. I don't think there are in theatre. And if anyone tells you that there are, then you can say, "Well, hand a box of tricks and there were rules." And I think a theatrical treatment, a treatment for a play, is a way for you to welcome people into your theatrical world. And I think it should be a reflection of the world that you want to create and the voice you want to write in. I have had so many treatments from so many playwrights. Sometimes they'll put me a link to a song to listen to while I read their treatment. Or they'll put pictures in, or they'll put in little scraps and fragments of dialogue because a couple of lines have popped in. And that is brilliant. Or they'll put in a load of photos that has referenced it, or articles that have sparked the idea. Straight away, I'm like, "Oh, this is exciting." Hi, Ginny. So I think that's a really good first port of call. And I think in terms of like a student scenario, actually that can sort of be like a mood board kind of thing, and actually that it kind of is that. And I say this as someone who is deeply excited by other people's creativity. Like, I love being a director because I just get to surround myself by loads of brilliant, interesting people and marvel at how clever they are. And that's really nice. And it makes me more interesting and more excited and more creative. So I think of that treatment as a gift that you are giving to someone else to start getting excited. That's like that next stage of collaboration. Then, all being well, they'll go, "That's brilliant. Why don't we have a go at writing a draft? Here's a little bit of money," hopefully. And we would then work towards that, having some kind of R&D. So having an R&D draft.
Sorry, who would we send a treatment to?
Well, I'd say I would send treatments to theatre companies and theatre makers, and to theatre buildings.
Like, would you say to the I don't know, development?
I'd say if they've got a literary manager or a new works associate or a talent development person, any of those people would be great. Associate directors are really great people to send stuff to because they're always looking for ideas. So in theatre buildings, those would be the people to send it to. And to just say, "I've got a new idea, I've got a treatment for it, could I just send it across? And if you're interested, I'd love to come and have a cup of tea and talk about it." Ask for people's time. If you catch them at the right time, Friday afternoons can be really good.
So you say you wouldn't send the treatment straight away, you'd send the initial email and then send about.
I guess it would depend on your relationship with the building.
Yeah.
I think that if you've got a relationship with the building, then great, go for your life, send the treatment. The worst thing they're going to say is, "We're too busy, we haven't got capacity, but keep in touch." People are generally nice in theatre, or pretend to be. Pretend to be enough that you don't feel offended by their emails, you know. If you haven't got a relationship with that building, make sure that you know enough about the building to justify why you're getting in touch, like you've seen work there or you know other people who've worked there. So you can justify why you're making that approach. So yeah, then an R&D draft. Now I would say that this mythical R&D period that is the goal of what everyone wants to do. When I was first starting out, it was such a rare thing for people to apply for R&D funding and do it. And now it seems to be happening a lot, but I also think that it's become a way of people sort of doing proto rehearsals and try and get their piece up to a showcase kind of stage, which is not the point of R&D. R&D is very much about kind of stress testing the work and also giving it out to actors, hearing those words aloud. It's the point at which you'll realise that you're a much better and a much worse writer than you thought you were. Do you know what I mean? There'll be bits you're like, wow, that was really good. And then there'll other bits where you're like, oh no, so many questions, I haven't thought of it, I don't know what I'm doing. And if you're lucky, you might have more than one period of R&D, depending on the play, depending on who you're working with. And also, I would say if you're lucky, there'll be a bit of creative continuity that not only will your director carry through, but hopefully some of the same actors will carry through so that they can actually see the development of the piece. They may or may not end up being in it ultimately. That's okay. It's a very different skill set, being a good R&D actor to being the right actor for the role. And you know that you can bring in the most brilliant, loveliest actors, but sometimes they will just be too lovely and just say nice things about the script, and that's not helpful in an R&D situation. It's about questions. And then ideally you'll work towards the first draft and then it'll get programmed, then it'll go on, and then your play exists. And then your final bit of collaboration is the start of rehearsals. And that first week of rehearsals, and I think it's really important to remember as a playwright that your play is still moving and changing and growing in that first week. Because that's the point at which the team gets much larger and you've still got to be collaborating then. And that can be very hard. I have been in situations where writers have been like, but I have done all the work, now you just need to make it perfect. And that becomes quite a difficult conversation. So it's actually making sure that that you understand as a playwright writing a new play, giving it to actors to do the first ever production, that first week, and if you've got longer, if you get a gorgeous 6-week rehearsal period, that first week and a half, 2 weeks is really about continuing that collaboration to allow the actors to do their very best work, and allow offers to be made, because that's what actors are bringing to the table. I've talked loads. Has anyone got any questions about any of that stuff that I've said about the process and things like that?
You just went back what you meant when you said offers to be made.
Yes, I guess with that, I'm saying that your play needs, or in order to fully achieve collaboration, I think everyone in the room needs to feel a degree of ownership over it. They need to feel like they've got their personal connection with the story, whatever it is, even if it's just this character is brilliant, I'm gonna have such a good time playing it. Through to someone with whom it deeply resonates with their lived experience, and therefore there's going to be something, you know, they're going to want to put a part of themselves into that. So I guess that's what I mean by those offers to be made, that they'll be like, oh, I just, you know, I wonder if, or had a question about here, and sometimes those offers aren't appropriate. And that's a really important thing to remember about being the writer, that you have to work out, well, this is a big question for me. How do you know what are the questions you need to ask and what are the questions you need to answer as the writer? Do you have a sense of that, or do you feel the pressure as writers to be able to answer all the questions?
Definitely feel pressure.
Because I feel really strongly that it is absolutely not your job to answer all the questions. And I did a play a long time ago with a lovely playwright called Tom Morton-Smith, who did the adaptation of Totoro that's currently on the West End. Really lovely man, really gorgeous playwright. And I was doing a play of his called In Doggerland, and there's a kind of repeated thing in the play that one character doesn't believe that another character's name is actually his name. And they keep being like, that's not your real name. And he's like, it is. And the actor playing this character who's called Linus was saying to Tom, like, is it his real name? And Tom's like, well, I have an answer for that. But I think you should find your own answer for that. And Richard, the actor, was like, no, tell me the right answer. And Tom was like, on opening night, I'll tell you what I think the answer is. But he wouldn't tell him at all during rehearsals. And actually, I thought that showed such confidence in the world of his play and the world of his characters that he was comfortable with his truth being different to the other truths in the room, and also an innate understanding that he had that an actor had to develop their own truth to fully connect with that character. And if he just said, no, I think he's made it up, then that would have put Richard onto a path that might not have been the right path for how he connected with that writer. And actually, as it was, it just sent the actor spiraling for half a day, and then he got back and found his way there. But I think you should know, as writers, it's really important that you know the questions that you want to ask of your play and of your room. And I think those two things can be different things. You know, you can have questions of a play. What is this about? What happens next? Why are they speaking in French? And then your questions of the room about, like, why are we telling this story? How can, is this coming across? Does it work? But also know that some of those questions can't be answered by you. Some of those questions can only be answered by other people. And some of those questions aren't going to get answered at the first time of asking, and I remind playwrights a lot that in a process, you might keep asking the same question again and again and again and again until you realise what it is. The text that I want us to have a look at as a practical example is an example of that, in that it's Narvik, played by Lizzie Nunnery, that I did quite a few years ago, and we had a band of musicians on stage. Lizzie Nunnery, the playwright, was one of them, and we spent like months going, who are the musicians? What does it mean? What they represent? And we were like, is it this? I'm not sure. Is it this? And literally, we did like 2 periods of R&D and it got to like the final rehearsals. And I was like, I think this might be the answer. And we were all like, yes. But we had been asking that question again and again and again, and putting out an offer of an answer and going, maybe, but I'm not sure, it doesn't feel quite right, but let's sit with that for now. And actually that was a really uncomfortable, really frustrating experience for me as a director, because I was like, why can't I answer the question? Why can't I figure it out? I feel like I'm letting everyone down if I can't work it out. And I'm a real one for logic in plays and having to understand the logic of the play and having to like look at it from all the angles and be really robust with it. So it really did my head in.
So was Lizzie not in the room then? Could she not answer the question? Or
she was in the room, but she didn't know either. She was like, I'm not sure. I just sort of felt instinctively like it had to be that. And then we worked out that essentially they were the dead. They were all the people who died in the war in various ways. And it represented all of that, the weight of all of that. But for a while, we're like, are they the sea? Are they different nations in the war? Are they different? And it was really comforting now, with the benefit of hindsight, to go, we could just sit in that uncertainty, but sit collectively, hold each other collectively in that uncertainty, which I think is what collaboration does really well. Has anyone got any questions about questions?
I wonder about that. So I'm obviously writing on this course, and sometimes there's going to be very similar questions of that. But sometimes in those initial conversations, if you are presenting a treatment, which is your conceit, that there is perhaps an expectation of that kind of clarity, rather than, I don't know, just instinctively I know that they need to be there and I'll figure it out kind of when I'm in the room. I feel like sometimes some of the barriers to getting into the room are the answers expected to the question.
Yeah, and I would say in kind of the crudest terms, I think that is basically you've just got to blag it and actually just sell the uncertainty as a creative opportunity, as an opportunity for collaboration, as a potential offer, as a way in, and actually just go, I'm not sure about this, so I'm really open to what it means, or I've got a few ideas about what it might mean, but I don't really want to set on one until I've welcomed collaborators into the room and hear what their input might be, because it's really, so you can just sort of fill the space. But I think that that's really important, because so often there's this sense that we are in a Western patriarchal storytelling tradition. That is, stories have a beginning and a middle and an end. And there is a sense of, all powerful, all knowing narrators. And if they aren't, it's because we've deliberately decided to have an unreliable narrator, or, so we're breaking the rules within an established set of rules anyway. And because of that, I think it can load onto the writer this sense that you've got to be like God and know it all, and be the all-wise teacher or parent sat in the room going, yes, this is, when in fact you're not, you're just someone who had an idea and a voice and wanted to sing that song with other people.
I tend to find them the more interesting plays to read ever.
Yeah.
Or write,
Exactly, because then they're plays.
Yeah.
Because if they've got other answers, then they're not plays. And also if they don't, like I'll often say to playwrights, what's the conversation you want to have with your audience? What questions do you want your audience to ask afterwards? What is your call to action for your audience? And I'm aware that call to action is quite a loaded term. It can feel a bit like you're getting everyone to go out and protest or make placards or sign a petition or whatever. But art should always change something. Always. Even if all it's changing is that someone's going to buy another theatre ticket. Like in the most basic terms, so they go, I like that, go to the theatre again, or they decide to stay out and have a drink with their friend and a chat when they were just going to go straight home. Like, it can change such tiny little things, or change massive things, that someone goes home and writes a play, or they ring the family member that they haven't spoken to for months, or they, sign a petition or a change or donate money to charity or whatever, and I think that being open to those conversations and those offers is really exciting. Shall we have a little read of this text and talk about how that changed? I think that's, I hope that will be a useful illustration of a lot of the stuff that I've waffled at you about. But obviously, any questions as we go along will be great. Thank you. So, hello, Zoomers. So you just get to listen to a lovely little play reading now. Jimmy, did you see Narvik in Liverpool?
I think I saw it 3 times.
Yeah, super fun.
It was so good. I saw the very first iteration in the blind school when it was just the 2.
Did you?
Yeah, and they used the sort of turret as a submarine.
Yeah.
And then I saw it in the Blue Coat, I think. Was it on in the Blue Coat? And then I saw it. Was it on in the Everyman in the studio?
We did it in Playhouse Studio, and then
Playhouse Studio.
Blue Coat afterwards.
Yeah, I saw it 3 times. It was amazing.
Oh, nice. It's not the only reason that I like Jimmy. Fab. So this probably enough for one. Take one, pass it along. So Narvik is a play that I developed with Lizzie Nunnery. When we first relocated to Manchester from London, so Box of Tricks started in London, we relocated to Manchester in 2012. And we started a relationship with the Liverpool Everyman Playhouse, and we were invited to take part in their sadly currently paused, retired Every Word Festival. And we did a lovely little one project doing 1-page plays with local playwrights, and I met Lizzie doing that. She did a lovely monologue, but Lizzie is also an incredibly talented singer-songwriter, so was during that festival was launching an album at the Scandinavian Church, Norwegian Sailors Church, which is this amazing space in Liverpool. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. She writes plays and she sings. So then I went and asked her if she would consider writing a play for me where music and text were of equal importance. Because I was really excited by that, and it felt the right thing for her. I was excited about giving her space to kind of play with those two creative strands. And she wanted to explore a story inspired by her granddad and his time in the war, in the Second World War, in the Navy. So he was on the Arctic convoys, going back and forth between Europe and North America. So it was really dangerous. And it started out as a way of exploring her relationship with her granddad and the stories that we tell in families. And we were really lucky in that Everyman and Playhouse gave us a little bit of money to do a really short version of it at the subsequent Every Word Festival, and we did it in what was the old blind school in Liverpool, which is now the fancy Hope Street Hotel. But we had a little band up on a gallery, and then we played out some scenes below. And we were like, we think this play's got legs, so let's try and write a bit more of a draft. And we had some money to pay for Lizzie's time to do that. And so we came together. We did Every Word in like November 2013. So this was about 6 months later that we came together with an R&D draft. It was a very holy draft. We were like, scene here, monologues here. So this is one of the scenes from the first part of it. Between two characters, Jim, who is from Liverpool, and Elsa, who is Norwegian. And Jim is working on ships and finds himself in Oslo and meets Elsa. So this is the second scene of the play. The first scene is Jim as an old man who's fallen in his basement and banged his head and is worried that he won't be able to get up off the cold and wet floor. And that basically his memory just kind of opens up, and all the things that he's been trying to ignore for like 60 years come flooding in, and he has to reckon with the ghosts of the past. And this is the entrance and introduction into it. Would two people be brave enough to have a little read of it? Absolutely no need for any accents whatsoever, unless you really want to show off. Would people be brave enough to have a read?
I don't mind to.
Yeah. Anyone? But I'm happy to be Jim if no one else wants. I'll be Jim. I'll do stage directions as well. So we're in Oslo, May 1939. Elsa appears behind Jim and tucks herself under his arm. They huddle together against a wall near the harbour. Dance music can be heard faintly beyond. Lights from the harbour flicker. But it's the best thing.
It's just the way I am.
You're afraid of the cold.
Sea monsters.
Sea monsters?
You don't know what's down there?
Sea monsters?
I don't know, okay? From the first time my mother tried to put me in the water, she swears I screamed and screamed.
An Oslo girl afraid of water.
A school teacher. I don't need to have anything to do with the water.
That's a shame though, you don't know what you're missing.
I'm not born in.
When you get the rhythm and the swell gets under you and you feel it moving with you, you forget yourself.
What do you want to forget?
And I've run cargo 10 different routes from one side of the Atlantic to the other, and I'll tell you, I never once saw a sea monster.
My grandmother told me stories of monsters and vikings and lost boats and stones. My cousins would beg for them, but I'd cover my ears. If that's what happens out there, who wants anything to do with it? You understand?
I'm beginning to.
All that darkness and silence.
You're a loony. I saw you dancing back there. I thought she looks like a nice, sensible girl, but no, you're a raving loon. I could turn on a radio now, and we'd hear fishing boats and cargo ships and cruisers halfway into the Atlantic, all talking to each other. Radio signals zipping from New York to Toronto to Timbuktu. There's no silence. It's all lit up out there. She kisses him.
Your friend will be looking for you.
He's not my friend, he's my crewmate, and he's not as interesting as you.
We should go back inside.
Come down to the water.
You won't get your way with me.
He kisses her. She strokes his face.
Jim. Jim. I like it. It's the only name you could have.
No one touches you on the ships. Weeks on end, no one comes near you if it's not a shove in the shoulder or a clip round the head, and sometimes you're even glad of that.
You like that?
I like you.
You probably have girls in Liverpool and New York and Toronto and every Norse sport.
I've had girls. They weren't like you.
I'm flattered.
I've never met an Elsie. Elsa.
Say it 3 times and I'll disappear.
And we can't have that. So, initial kind of thoughts, questions about that, reactions to that as a scene. What do you like about it?
Is this a scene? This is scene 2.
Yeah. the first time we've met her.
Did you say he was old?
So he's not in this. He starts as an old man, then we go back into his memory.
Yeah, that's the question.
I love that it's full of like character, and I'm learning so much about the characters without like exposition.
Yeah,
It's really nice.
and what questions is it raising about here, or anything that we're not sure about? If you were, if you were presented with this, knowing this is first draft territory, we got thoughts about questions and things like that, what may or may not work.
And then, is this the very, very first time they've met? It looks like this. They've been speaking before.
They've met in like a dance hall.
All right, yeah.
Like an hour earlier.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, the first evening that
And we see that in the first scene.
we don't see it.
Oh,
No.
So yeah, I guess you'd be asking your questions as if you were given enough away. Yeah.
Yes, we've got a lot of. There's real questions in this about, are you making the right choice about diving straight in, particularly when we've got a play that's immediately jumped in a timeline, and then suddenly we're like, now we're seeing this young version of the play, and then someone we've never seen before, and we're in a different country, and what do we care? Do we not care? Are the audience paying attention? Are we telling them enough detail, too much detail? Do we believe that relationship? And from a collaboration point of view, and a sense of what you need to give the actors, the actors have got to jump into a love story at this point. Because over the rest of the play, they meet a few more times, but then as the war happens, Jim, they've fallen in love with each other, but then obviously they're separated due to the Nazi occupation of Norway. And for Jim, Elsa becomes like this representation of everything that he's fighting for and hope. So there's a sense of, have we set that up here, or are they just two people in their 20s flirting with each other? And does it work or not? Have we done enough? So we had a lot of questions about that, and also questions about, how do you write a character who's speaking not in their first language? Does that work? Do the rhythms of that work? Lizzie's husband is Norwegian, so we've had a Norwegian in the room, and later in the play we allow other language to come in, but actually straight away there's a challenge there that's been set for the playwright, which I would say you could worry, oh gosh, will that be something that puts people off doing this play because oh god, we've got to have a Norwegian actor, or you go, this is a really amazing opportunity to bring collaboration in of a different language, but we didn't have a Norwegian actress doing it at this point. We just had a nice room of people that we pulled from Liverpool and to see what would work. So a lot of questions about it. Shall we have a read of how it changed for the next draft, and then think about how we might have been able to do that? Are you happy to read it with me?
Yeah, sure.
So this was a draft a month later, after we'd done this R&D. Scene 2, Oslo, May 1939. Jim and Elsa are on the edge of the city, the edge of the Oslo fjord. She approaches the water first, moving quickly, stopping and waiting for him to catch up. Instead, he stops some feet away, looking out to sea. They've both been drinking, but she's drunker.
Come here, let me see you.
Look at that. Jesus, they're sharp like knives.
You came down here with me to look at the sky.
Vikings sailed out of here with only stars to guide them. Do you know that? Can you imagine that?
I know all about the Vikings.
They had maps, but they were all wrong. They had stories, half made up.
Is that right?
They sailed out of here with nearly no idea when they'd hit land. No idea what was out there and under there. Mermaids and sea monsters.
I hate the sea.
You what?
From the first time my mother tried to put me in the water, I screamed and screamed.
An Oslo girl afraid of water.
I'm a school teacher. I don't need to have anything to do with water.
You're a teacher?
A history teacher, actually. But thank you for the lesson on the Vikings.
Shit.
They weren't so stupid as you think.
I didn't say they were stupid.
Come over here, let me see you.
It's a shame,
What is?
The water. You don't know what you're missing.
When I was small, I came with my school friends down here to the show. The ford was nearly frozen. A boy started to chase me, pushing me, prodding me, grabbing my scarf, pulling tight. I had to get away and went staggering back to the tide, in my coat and gloves and woolen vest, the water eating through all my clothes. The shock of it. Have you ever felt cold like that? When all the air goes out of your lungs and your flesh turns to stone?
Once or twice. Give it a minute, it warms up.
The big brave man.
You move around, it starts to move with you. You get the rhythm and the swell gets under you. You get light then. You forget yourself.
What do you want to forget?
Jim shrugs. Do you ever want to slip out of your skin?
Definitely.
She holds his eye a moment. He turns out, gesturing to the sky and the sea. I think it's beautiful. I don't mind saying it.
All that darkness and silence.
I could turn on a radio now and we'd get fishing boats and cargo ships and cruisers halfway into the Atlantic, all talking to each other. Radio signals zipping from New York to Toronto to Timbuktu. There's no dark and silence out there. It's all lit up.
Give me the America. That'd be the place for me. Endless land, dry heat, yellow sun.
You haven't got it so bad.
The great grey city and the great grey ocean.
How are you going to get to America if you don't go on a ship?
Ships are all right, that I can manage. You can take me on your ship, show me California and Virginia.
My ship's a fishing boat.
So I'll sleep with the haddock and the cod.
You're a loony.
Why don't you come over here?
I saw you dancing back there. I thought she looks like a nice, sensible girl.
I can't see your face.
But no, you're a raving loon.
Are you afraid?
What?
Inside you weren't afraid, dancing with all of the girls.
What's to be afraid of?
Maybe it's only the dancing you like. All swagger and no, what do they say? Substance.
He approaches her. He kisses her. She strokes his face.
Jim. Jim. I like it. It's the only name you could have.
No one touches you on the ships. Weeks on end, no one comes near you if it's not a shove in the shoulder or a clip round the head, and sometimes you're even glad of that.
You like that?
I like you.
If I was you, I'd have so much fun. I'd have girls in Liverpool and New York and Toronto and every North coast.
I've had girls. They weren't like you.
I'm flattered.
I've never met a Elsie.
Elsa.
Elsa. Elsa. Elsa.
Say it 3 times and I'll disappear.
Elsa, Elsa, Elsa. Yeah. Changes, what do we think?
You get the reason why she's like water. Like I was thinking about this before actually, and I thought maybe that's an actual thing, but no, it's a story, so it needs to have some sort of meat on it. You know, some reason, like there was a bad memory attached to water. That makes more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lizzie is a fan of a little bit of storytelling in her plays. Like she likes her kind of meaty monologues and stuff. But she's quite good at instinctively knowing where we need that storytelling and where we don't. And actually, there's definitely for me more exposition in this scene. We learn more about the characters because we had a lot of questions in that first one of, but who are they there and why are they here and what's happening and how. And actually, we started to get that. And what do you feel about their relationship and the connection between them?
There was more context.
Yeah.
I felt like in the first one, as an audience member, I'm coming into something that I don't know what's come before. And you can kind of almost not engage with them because of that as an audience member.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think that Jim's become a little bit more romantic in this one, like talking about the stars and the radio signals and all of that. Then you suddenly start to go, well, actually, maybe he just feels really different and exotic to this girl who's lived her whole life in Oslo, and then this sailor's rocked up on a ship, and then he's talking about these, the poetry of all of that feels very different. You can understand why there'd be a sense of a connection.
She became more she seems like the more confident character out of the two of them in this one as well. They seem to have very different personalities.
Yes, and that's quite a shift from the first version of the scene. Have you got any instincts or thoughts about why and how we might have got to that point of making Elsa stronger and a bit more front-footed?
Is it like you said, because he'll be the one that goes to war or whatever, she's going to be left behind, so she needs to...
we had quite robust conversations in the room about the fact that we were women telling a story that was centering a lot of male stuff, and that war is really male, and we know we couldn't have her as just this passive character. And actually that was a real result of letting actors make offers in the room and talking about, well, it's not, thinking about how her story's going to play out. Doesn't have a happy ending, sorry. There was a sense from an actor of like, but what have I got to play with if I'm essentially a damsel in distress the whole way? So how do we give her more agency? And then in talking about the research, that was a big part of writing this play. So for any of you working on plays that kind of have period stuff and history things, actually offering that research out to the room, particularly in a devising process, offering that research out into the room and saying these are the things that are interesting, gets you out of that laser focus that you get into during your research period, where you've gone, we are researching, so in this scenario, we are researching the Navy and sailors. So Lizzie and I read loads of books, went to museums, and then we needed another voice to go, but what about the women? And we were like, but we can't think of a way to put the women in because they weren't in the Navy. And actually, then we were like, oh, but if he falls in love with a woman, how do we then give her agency? And actually, she became a lot more front-footed. We made her a teacher so that she was educated, that explained why she was so good at English, why she connected with him over books and words and language. And then we really wanted her to be like a member of the resistance and do loads of stuff. But one of the questions that came up in this play is, what are the rules of a memory play? And for anyone who is brave enough to embark upon writing a memory play, there's a lot of rules around memory plays, because you've got to help your audience stay rooted in reality when you're jumping around all over the place and playing with truth and perception. So a rule that we established was that Jim's own the other characters were only allowed to say lines that they'd said in Jim's presence. So it was because it was all out of his memory. It could only be stuff that he'd witnessed, that in a letter or in a conversation. So as much as we were like, we want to have Elsa like really messing stuff up for the Nazis and like making it really difficult, and we went down a bit of a rabbit hole about the cold shoulder Norwegian resistance, which is just like in itself a really lovely thing to read about. But then we were like, but he wouldn't have known about any of that, so her letters would have been censored, she wouldn't have been able to get out, so we can't tell any of that at all, which is really frustrating. And that's also one of the flip sides of being the writer in the room, where you have to let other people tell you no for the good of the play. But then it's like, well, that's really annoying because I've got this really great monologue. But it did then allow us to create a very front-footed, assertive character. There's one more version of the scene, but to be honest, you can have a read of that in your own time, because I think it would probably be more valuable for everybody. Have the chance to ask some questions about the specific things that you are thinking about and approaching in terms of collaboration, so that we as a group collaboratively and collectively can empower you all to write these amazing plays that you're going to write. So based on the stuff that we've kind of talked about and these things that we've explored, where are people at in terms of thinking about their next stages for what they're doing?
I suppose for me, when does the research, you just mentioned about research in the room, so I've spent a lot of time, the play that I've started writing with Box of Tricks is like, it's about an Edwardian female detective, and like there's two different time periods that kind of like, there's the crime that happens, and then we sort of go forward like 20 years, but it's like 82 years, like 1888 and 1909. So I've done quite a bit of research, but it's like, I remember you kind of, once I sent you a photograph, you did say you would look at some of the dialogues. A lot of my dialogue's too modern for this like central character. So I suppose it's like, what stage do I get it to before I hand it over? Is it okay to hand, not that she's saying things like, wow, that's cool. Like, what stage is it acceptable to hand over, and what stage does the research stop? That you could, I'm excited the idea that other people go off and do research and find, I'm only one person with, trying to write the play and finish the play, or finish a draft of the play. So it's exciting to think that other people would bring, in fact, it was you who said about female, when I said about, I was initially writing about, I wanted to write something about the sibling of a missing person, and initially it was like modern times. It was to do with podcasts and basically writing about true crime. And then I was researching this time period for another play, and I was like, oh, how exciting to actually write about true crime, but like way back in sort of Edwardian times. That what does that say about us now? And then I was talking to you about it, Hannah, and Hannah was like, oh well, do you know about female detectives? And all of a sudden it shifted the play, so the female detective is now the central character. But so yeah, I suppose it's like, when does the research stop, and when do you open it up to people? And
I think that that is a really difficult question because essentially we are in we're in a meritocratic industry, where you've sort of got to earn the right to do your play until you become Simon Stevens or Jack Thorne, or Lucy Kirkwood, other women, or Churchill. Just need to just have loads of female playwrights' names written my arms, so I can be better feminist. So we've still essentially, unfortunately, it is inescapable that at an earlier point in your career, you've got to kind of front load the work that you're doing to be taken seriously. And I would say that obviously, if you want to write a play about something that is beyond your lived experience, or not just totally imagined about, like, I don't know, space worms invading the city, then you need to have done a bit of research so that you don't fall at the first hurdle of talking to someone and them going, oh my god, I just read this amazing book about it, and you going, think about that. So I think that you definitely need to have done enough research to understand whether you're going, like, the rules that you're going to establish for yourself, I guess, about the facts of what you're doing, while also being open to the fact that you are not in the business of becoming an expert on that topic. And I think that can be really difficult, because I think it can feel like you need to be an expert on it so that you can't be caught out. And people, if someone asks you a question, you can't be like, I don't know what that means, So I imagine with your play having Sisyphus in the title, that there's a Greek influence going on there. So, I imagine that you've done a fair bit of reading around the myths, or at least have a love of that mythology that is infusing it, or enough to blag your way through it.
Well, it's not really any Greek in it.
Just Sisyphus is a great, just
as a
great title. Then that's kind of great. Because I love that in itself is also lovely, because then there's just a playfulness of going, I like the name, I like the word, I like the sound, Sisyphus. So I guess it's, in terms of the research that you do to back stuff up, I think it's an ongoing thing throughout the drafting process, and that actually you've got to be open to going, actually, yeah, that probably does need a bit more research, because it needs to be really well backed up, but also going, that is the director and the actor's job, and kind of going, I've done this bit, but I'm not doing it all for you, because you still got to do the work on it. So that's a really annoying answer, Mary. It's one of those.
No, I suppose there's a difference between, like, me writing a play set in Edwardian times and have a character carry a skateboard. Obviously, I'd never do that.
Yeah.
Whereas between, if I write something, and again, I'm coming from the point of view of being Scottish, but the play's actually set in Manchester. So there's certainly times I've reached out to our Box of Tricks, like, WhatsApp group, and gone, what would a northern person say? I've lived here for 17 years, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, what would you say for this and that kind of thing? So I suppose it's okay not to be too hard on myself, to not get every single bit of dialogue
And I think you can set your own rules about it. There's anyone read or seen 1536 by Ava Pickett? It was on at the Almeida a couple of years ago. It's transferring to the West End, and I just had to read it for a drama school module that I was doing. It's great. It's about these three girls in Kent, while Anne Boleyn is basically falling, and then she gets executed. But their dialogue is totally anachronistic.
Right.
But they are in period costume in a field by a tree in 1536 with all the rules and the structure around that. Yeah. It's really great, and it is so full of rage. It would be a great one for teenage girls to read.
Right.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I absolutely loved it, and I was really sad when I found out it's getting a West End transfer, because I was like, I can't pitch this. But actually, clearly, she just made the decision of, I'm not even going to faff around with having them taught like they're in the 16th century. They're going to talk like people now. So you can make that decision, and I think that you've got to make the decisions about it, and you could get tied up in knots about trying to recreate working middle and upper class Manchester dialect and accent, or you could go, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to write it, and I'm going to make sure that I have a load of Manchester actors in the room so that they can help me with that. And it's okay to go, I don't have that skill set, so I'm going to get someone who can do that skill set, but also trust that the people who are going to bridge that gap between you and those other people, your director, your dramaturg, are going to keep your baby safe, that they also love your baby, and so that they are going to hold you and this really vulnerable play, where as you embark upon a process where you're going to find out all the things that aren't quite right, or don't quite work, or are holding it back, and that is that there's just got to be a bit of you've just got to develop whatever mantra works for you, which isn't my play's shit, I can't write, this something's wrong with it, but is all this is how we're going to make it better. I need other people to make it bigger, to bring their skills into it. This is the limit of my skills. This is the offer that I'm making to my collaborators. This is the gift that I'm giving them, and I'm going to receive the gifts of their lived experience and their wisdom and their talents, and then we're going to, continuing the child analogy, it's going, I'm sending them to nursery because they will have a shit time at home with me, because I am not doing pasta art every single day. You give them to other people to do the stuff that you can't, knowing that they're going to help that child grow, and that so it's that. It's not. I don't think the sense of parenthood is an unhelpful analogy in terms of plays. And whether you are a parent or a pet parent, or just a lovely friend to a lovely child-free person who's friendly to those who are not, I think you can still empathise with that analogy. Any other kind of questions and thoughts about stuff that is live for you that you're working on now?
Yeah, I wonder about when. I don't think there's one answer to this. I think it's different all of the time. But when should the collaboration stop? I think every project's different, but sometimes is it kind of to draw a line? Sometimes do you just take it all the way up to press night, and then it's always different. I know it is, but who do you think's the right person to make a call on
the playwright?
The playwright.
Absolutely, I think so, and I think that I went to see the Mike Bartlett play 13 at the National a long time ago. It's not its best. And it changed loads in previews, because I remember watching it, and there was this weird bit where this monster climbed out of this kitchen unit and ran around, and then I remember talking to a friend who saw it 2 weeks later. I was like, what was the monster about? And they were like, what monster? And I was like, they got that in previews then. And apparently I spoke to someone who was working on the show, and they were like, we were getting new scripts all the time, and actually that for me is an indication of a collaboration process that has gone wrong, because actually nobody's got faith in the play anymore, so it's keep changing. So I think that you as the playwright needs to know, for your own mental health and well-being, how capable you are of making quick edits and quick changes in the room. And if you know that you can't do that, if you know that you are I need to go away and process, then advocate for yourself and say, this is my process. If we're going to do an R&D period, that's fine, but I'm telling you now, there will be no writing done during that process. I will ask questions, I will hear from stuff, but I am not going to be able to process all of that and then go home and write new stuff. I can't work that quickly. Playwrights who can will be like, brilliant, can we have a day off in the middle so I can go and rewrite stuff and then come back? Know that about yourself and feel really empowered to say that and take that through to your full processes where you go, I will make changes in the first week and I will organise my life so that I have the time and the headspace and the support around me at home to make those changes. But then unless there's something really, really that's not working, no, I'm not going to do that. And I would say that a good director should be absolutely on the same page with you, that, because otherwise the actors are going to be freaking out about learning their lines and they're not going to feel solid in it. And so yeah, I think it rests with the playwright, and I think you are absolutely well within your rights to say, I think it stops here. But I have been in a situation where I've gone into the first week of rehearsals and the playwright was like, it is perfect. And me and all the actors are like, it is not. It is not. And the way that you talked to all of us before we came into this room implied that we all agreed with that, and that's what this first week is, and now it's not. And that became very difficult. Very difficult. So it's also about making sure that you've got that really clear communication ahead of time. And I think that, some of that is also your creative process and your ability to be in the room is also, it is about access, whether you've got diagnosed conditions or like responsibilities outside of the room that require certain logistics. Actually, you do also know what makes you the best person in the room, and like the times of day that you can work, whether you get too tired, how you feel when you're stressed, if you need regular breaks so that you can refresh stuff. If you're the key to everything in that room, so make sure that you're bringing those needs into the collaboration so that you say, like, this is what I need if we're going to get where it's going to get in terms of play, because everyone else is there because of you. Not in a bad way, like in a really brilliant way. Like you planted something that brought all these other people together and it's going to bring even more people together. So of course you can say, yeah, if we're going to spend 2 days of table work and asking me loads of questions, I don't need a day off because otherwise I'll start swearing at everybody. Or I'm going to have to finish early or come in late so that because I'm going to be really drained. Or I'm going to need a note taker. That's like, it's really fine to ask for that as a playwright, to be like, actually, if I'm going to be part of the conversation and listening to what everyone's having, like talking about, either I need to just record it all or I need someone to be taking notes for me, and that's fine. Ask for it, because you've got to know what brings your best self to the table. Any more questions and things about collaboration? Does anyone want to kind of share anything about where they're at, just to sort of put it out into the room and in a really safe, nurturing, supportive, loving space?
I've got a question. So if you're offered an R&D by a theatre, does it mean anything in terms of the future of the play?
I mean, you would hope. I think that yes, it means that there is I mean, I know the theatre that you're talking about, Ginny, so it's,
I know you do, but I honestly don't know.
I think it means that there is belief in you as a playwright and a knowledge that in order for you to fulfill your potential as a playwright, actually offering you a room and actors and financing that room and those actors is going to be a really important bit of support for you. And knowing what theatres are like generally, there'll always be a part of them that's like, and if it's really great, then we might put it on. With the caveat that, you know, no one's got any money. So I think that there's always goodwill there. And I think that if you are offered that, obviously always take it. If people are like, we're going to give you room and we're going to pay for your actors and your time, I hope. We'll find out. Then take it, because that's so valuable. But also it no longer means that it's absolutely a green light that they'll put it on. But I think if someone has given you that room, you are allowed afterwards or beforehand to go, great, can I book in a follow-up conversation after the R&D?
Great.
You know, absolutely.
So do theatres give R&D periods to writers without saying, right, we want bums on seats?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, nobody's got any money, which is really frustrating. Some people then suddenly magic up secret pots of money and you're like, oh, amazing. But people have got space, you know, and actually if you say, can I have some space? Can I have 3 days, 2 days, a week of space? And if you know, and you can say, if you've got money for some actors, I'd love to have it. Or if you can help me find money, to always ask for it, because actually the right, you know, when you catch pretty much any theatre at the right time of year, and it's different for every theatre, they will have a sense of, oh, we need to have more people in the building, we need more people in, like we need to be really getting artists in. So actually they will do that, and just ask for it. And if they say, oh, we're not in a position to give that, then say, okay, well, you know, is there a time in the coming months where you might be able to offer that? And just ask for it, because they should be. And particularly if you've done stuff like live rights, if you've done something where the theatre has already given you a bit of something, even if it's just that they've given you coffee or you've been in rehearsing a show, I had such a great time working on this show, and actually I've got an idea for something, can I have a bit of space? You know, we're not, particularly outside of London, we're not in theatre for the money, we are in it for the love of it, and we all want to make good work. And also we're all sort of secretly hoping that we'll discover like the next Operation Mincemeat, or you know, or Jerusalem, or like great big play, you know. So if we can play a part in that by giving someone a room, and then, you know, if you've got a really boring week of like admin and you get to come in and listen to a reading of a play, or just can have a conversation with a playwright, like much rather be doing that. Particularly salaried individuals in buildings, you know, ask for it, absolutely ask for it. The Live are pretty good with their space.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose my experience is that they have given space and they have been happy to put their name on like in-kind support, that kind of thing. But I've certainly had the R&D where it's like, you've been you're in the building, you've had this bit, and I'm honestly not trying to scare anyone or make everyone, but it's just they can only promise so much to so many writers, I guess. And we had the showing, and the artistic director did come, and it was a no, and it was just like, you know, you know, that can be like. But I'm sure, like you say, that was more of a me approaching them. They didn't approach me; it was me approaching them and asking them for space. And then because I was in the building, inviting them along. That sounds like a totally different thing. From you, Jenny. It's just
but also, you know, the artistic director might not want the show, but they're really interested in you as a writer, but they know lots of other people and they will advocate. And there are, I'd like to reassure you all that we do talk to each other. Theatre companies and venues talk to each other, and in fact I'm in the early stages of conversation about how a number of northern theatre companies and venues can link up to share scripts and writers and sort of try and do a bit of matchmaking and advocacy in a slightly more structured way. So actually it's never a waste for you to be in the building and to be seen by an artistic director, even if you're not the playwright for them. You know, there's plays that I read that I think are absolutely brilliant, and playwrights that I love, and I'm like, but I know I'm not. I mean, I'll do it because I'm a tart and I will be like, yeah, please, put me with actors, I'll have a lovely time. But I know that I'm not always the best person for it, to then go, actually, you need someone else to do it.
Do you know what the question I find really hard to answer is when they go, and what's your plans for it? And I feel like going, for you to put it on. Like, you know, I think you asked me this, going, where do you see this play going? And I was like, anywhere. Like,
But I think you can say that. You can say, you know, if they say what your plans for it, be like, well, actually, I'd really like. I think what they mean is.
what does he mean? Because I don't know how to answer.
I think what they mean is, do you think it's gonna like? Do you think it's going to tour? Do you want it to be on one place? Have you got set venues in mind? And I think you can say, ideally, I would love it to have a 3-week run in a theatre like yours. Or I'd love it to tour. Or I'd like, you know, actually, I think it might work in non-theatre spaces. And, you know, but essentially just being honest about it. And they'll, you know, and you can say, I know you're not in a position to program it. Or let me know if you're in a position to program it. You can be cheeky. You know, you can find the tone that works for you in those conversations, you know, but you like it feels so much like the venues have got the power and we've all got to go cap in hand, but if we all downed tools
and they need to answer their emails, I'm sorry to be like,
everyone gets far too many emails, but actually just keep remembering that you're, you know, artists are what powers the building. So, you know, hold that power there. It's really easy to feel disempowered, but actually it's, you know, you're not. And often buildings are staffed by artists who are doing sensible jobs to earn the money to make their art, you know, so they do know where you're coming from. They really do. If anyone needs to dash, please feel free.
We've got a friend coming, so we should really.
Yes, we are due to finish now. So thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone's got any final questions, I'm here for live rights, so I'm around if anyone wants to come and chat about stuff. But I hope that's been useful in terms of thinking about that. And you know, my real takeaway. Thank you. For how to be the writer in the room is just to remember the gift that you are giving the world. And just keep, you know, that, yeah, if art is a transaction, it's like a mutual gift giving of, here is my lovely play, give me the gifts of your talents, and then together we get to give this to the world, you know, and like really hold on to that. That is how you do it. And also find the people who can walk into those rooms with you and help you be your best self so that you can feel confident. And you feeling confident might be you sitting very quietly and not saying very much. That's fine. I've got playwrights who are like, I don't want to have to talk or give notes. And at the end of the day, can I just show you all my notes and can you tell me it is? And that's absolutely fine. Tom Morton-Smith is one of those.
oh,
He doesn't like giving notes to actors. He'll be like, I'll give them to you and you can give them to the actors. He'll talk to them afterwards, but he's like, that's not how it works. And then there are other writers where I'm like, can you stop messaging the actors because they come in the next morning going, oh, I'm like, stop it. But then that works for them. And then also it means that the actors feel a real direct connection with the play and a real power because the writer likes them, you know. So it's working out that thing for you. You are the person making your play. So sit really powerfully and confidently in what that means to you. You know. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks very
Thanks
much.
for joining us online.
Oh, thank you.